Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third webinar of the Education Week. It has been a great pleasure to have you all with us throughout this week. Yesterday, we had such great discussions about opportunities around transnational education and the possible different arrangements. It was great to hear some models and success cases from the University of London and the University of Edinburgh. But today, we will be joined by a couple of people that will amaze us with some good stories and overview of the UK English language experience, and we will discuss a little bit more how quality fits within that. So I will tell you who our speakers are in a second. Just to remind you that the Education Week will continue, and we will have another webinar tomorrow to discuss about technology. But you can stay tuned on everything we do, following us through our official channels, and also get in touch through our official email address that will be shared with you afterwards in the chat. As yesterday and Monday, we wanted to be as interactive as possible. So please feel free to send us your comments, questions, anything that you wanted to share with us. And also please start saying where you are watching us from. So today I will be joined by our English language specialist for the Department of International Trade back in the UK, Mark Hennebury. Mark, he was first appointed to join DIT back in September 2018 as an English language specialist, representing and promoting the UK English language sector and supporting EOT providers of all types to grow their business and partnerships around the globe. Prior to this, he was the head of international of Loughborough College, developing several international projects with countries as India, Qatar, Indonesia, China, and Vietnam. And he was, before that, he was sorry guys, I just lost here the line.
I can tell them if you like, Barbara.
Yeah, I just got it here. You were the curriculum manager at Nottingham College, but you can tell then if you like, Mark. Very good to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks, Barbara. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Great to have a live audience. Looking forward to the comments and the questions. So I've got a short presentation. I've only got 10 minutes. So I'm going to give you an overview of what the UK ELT sector looks like, what our quality is based on in the UK, and kind of what factors drive that quality that we've got in the UK. So bear with me while I just share my screen, get my presentation for you.
Thank you, Mark. I think we are quite excited to hear from you and what you're going to explain to us. I know that the past few days, people have been quite active in the chat, so looking forward to comments as well. So we'll keep posting them. I'm looking at them, and I will interact soon as well. And we will also have Bell English and Niall joining us in a second for their presentations too.
Thank you. Can I just check you can see that all right?
It's coming through. Yeah, now I can see it.
Fantastic. Right, so I'll run through and then I'll hand over to our other guests today. So we're talking all about quality. So for the UK ELT sector, I think it's important to understand the setting that we've got, the environment that we work within the ELT sector in the UK. So obviously the ELT sector is a very established sector, and we've got a very well-established market for students. Got a really broad offer. With the what I'm going to be talking about is in normal times that I hope we are all returning to in the not too distant future. So in normal times, we are the #1 destination for ELT students. So in terms of students around the world, if they're thinking of learning English and visiting somewhere to learn English, the first place that they would think of doing that is the UK. So we have the most amount of ELT students coming to the UK. And we've got the widest range of courses in the ELT sector in the UK as well to attract great variety of different students, down from young students, preschool, professional, academic, students looking to go on to university, students are looking to improve their career prospects or train their English for a specific reason within their careers or within their industry, senior executives, the whole range there. And we've been doing this for over 100 years. So language schools, very well established, colleges, our universities, we've all had English language departments and training English. So, and we've got an awful lot of accredited language centres as well in the UK. Sadly, we're losing some at the moment, but as I say, we're hoping to get back on our feet as soon as we can. So that's the context. We've got an awful lot of demand for the UK ELT sector. And as such, it's built up quite a range of expertise within the UK. So, of course, what I've put in the centre there are the teaching, the student-facing providers. So we've got private language schools, universities, colleges, independent schools, and then private specialist training providers as well. So these are the people that are student-facing organisations teaching the students. But around that, a great deal of industry has grown up. So publishing, if we're looking at publishing within the ELT sector, it's the UK publishers that are leading the way. The qualifications and the tests, quality assurance, something we'll touch on again in a minute. The ed tech side of it as well. Teacher training, obviously, a whole industry that's grown up around the delivery to students. And consultancy, so working at different levels, whether it's consultancy with individual businesses or consultancy at the government to government level. So all of this is part of what we've got in the UK, where our expertise is. Now, how that drives quality is, of course, what you've got then, you've got experienced ELT organisations. They've got a wide range of services. You've been building up this capacity in the UK for a large number of years, and therefore you've got all of the research that's happening at the universities around TEFL, around applied linguistics, around educational management, all of these sorts of things that are going on that are driving that. And then underpinning this, you've got quality assurance within your university system, within your college system, within your schools, and your accreditation schemes with the private language schools as well. So you've got something there external that is driving it. So these institutions, they'll be inspected, the teachers will be observed, the observers will also go through all of the other elements within the organisation, which could be the safeguarding elements of it, the management structure, the finance, all of these different things being taken into account to quality assure that institution. So that's the external pressure. But then internally, you've got an awful lot going on, which is driving the quality. So these ELT organisations, I said we've got a lot of students coming to the UK in normal times. Of course, they're all competing for these students. They're highly competitive for each other. And one of the things that they can't sacrifice, they can play around with their pricing structure, they can have new products, they can have new courses, but the one thing they all need to have to ensure that the students are coming back year after year is they've got to have the quality. They've got to make sure that when they're getting this quality assurance and they're getting their accreditation, they're getting the highest scores possible for their quality assurance. They're getting the best reputation for quality. And of course, because you've got such a big industry within the UK around ELT, if you're a teacher and you want to teach English, you could go anywhere around the world and teach English, and you could probably do it most places just if you've got a university degree. However, if you want to get a job in the UK teaching English, it's a bit more difficult because there's a lot of teachers there. So you're certainly going to need your certificate level qualification for teaching ELT. You're probably going to need your diploma level teaching qualification in order to work in an ELT school, because they've got the pick of all of the best teachers out there. You might even want to go higher than that and look at your master's degree qualification as well. For some of these schools or at the universities, whatever, this would be the the sort of qualification that other applicants would have. So if you want to get work in the UK, these are the people that you're going to be up against. So that again is driving the quality internally. You've got this market of teachers that are competing with each other for the better jobs, and they're getting better and better qualified to do so. And you've got a sector that is having to adapt all the time. We've had to adapt with the COVID crisis. We've had to adapt with all sorts of things over the years. Different markets coming and going, different changes with visa regulations, different challenges with students, what they can't do, the type of offers that there's demand for. So the ELT sector has always been quite quick and quite flexible to adapt. And it's had to be really innovative as well. So you've had to look at new ways of teaching, new products, new income streams, diversifying where you're approaching students, what sort of courses you're offering. And then the final thing that I've got in my presentation is about the continuous professional development. So these organizations, once they've got their great teachers that are working there, they're constantly training and improving and supporting their teachers to get better and better and better. And again, going back to the external quality assurance that they require, this is something that's inbuilt into it. They have to demonstrate that they are developing professionally their teachers, but it's something that you would do anyway to include best practice, get teachers sharing ideas with each other, sharing activities with each other, things that have worked in the classroom, things that haven't worked, how to deal with different situations, all of these things to make sure that your quality within your organization is as high as possible. So that's a very quick overview for you. I'm really looking forward to speaking a bit more later on when you've got some questions about it. Now, this is a situation in the UK. This isn't to say that none of these things can be replicated. There's a lot of these things which are already replicated in countries around the world, particularly when you're looking at professional development. You've got these teaching organizations in your country that are doing this, that are driving professional development and having training sessions and doing things online and all of these fantastic things as well. You've got schools and organizations that are having to be adaptable and innovative and look for students in different ways. You're all competing with each other as well. So you're looking for competition driving the quality. So they're not things that can't be replicated. This is just the model that we've had in the UK, which has really been driving the quality within our industry. So I hope that's given you a really quick overview. I'll give you my details. There's a QR code there if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. I often talking about various things on LinkedIn that are happening within the UK ELT sector. So you're more than happy to connect with me. And I look very much forward to the other presentations today and to hearing some of your questions as well. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Mark. I think it's inspiring to see this overview and how we drive quality in everything the UK does in English language. I'm sure there will be more questions coming soon. I see that I read some comments about English being an international language that connects us. And actually, we have people from Brazil, Mexico, and a couple of other countries in Latin America. So we can see the power of the language playing here live. But we will discuss more in a couple of minutes. I will invite now Ton Kido to join us. Ton is the director of NILE, and he has a master's degree in language testing from Lancaster University and the Cambridge Delta. And his role at NILE involves strategic and organizational management and training and consultancy in a range of areas, including testing and assessment, learning technologies, material development, and language teaching methodology. Ton is also treasurer and founding director of Aqueduto, the Association of Quality Education and Training Online, webmaster for the Testing, Evaluation and Assessment Special Interest Group of ISFO, and vice chair of EQUALS Board of Trustees. Welcome, Ton. Very good to have you with us. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. We are looking forward to hear NILE's experience and case studies today. So I will give the floor to you.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here with you, speaking to friends and colleagues across Latin America. Is it possible to bring up my presentation? Thank you very much. So I want to talk for a short while about what quality means for NILE, the Norwich Institute for Language Education, and it ties in very closely with a lot of what Mark has just been saying. And I want to talk about a number of areas where we espouse quality in what we do, and I think that's important for what we can bring as a UK organisation to partners around the world, and particularly in Latin America. So the first thing that we bring, very much along the lines of what Mark was saying, is the experience and expertise as an established specialist teacher training education organization. Now, it's great to have new players and startups and new entrants to the education sector, but to survive for as long as NILE and also Bell you have to be adaptable and resilient, and you have to have quality running through everything that you do. That's quality in the face-to-face training and the design and development of programs, but for NILE it's also really part of our online teacher education ethos. 7 years of dedicated experience and expertise in developing online programs for teachers and working with teachers who work with their learners online. The other thing that we bring in terms of experience and expertise is the fact that we work with teacher educators globally. On a recent project, we had teacher educators from 15 different global contexts working on a single project. So we bring in a lot of contextual knowledge, a lot of local specialization. So you get a UK offer mediating a global set of experience and expertise. And the fact that we work on bespoke programs, so we're constantly innovating and constantly responding to the demands of local needs and local contexts, supporting sustainability and developing local capacity. And that could be anything from small scale working with an individual set of teachers in a particular institution to large scale programs working with thousands of teachers. And that experience runs from being able to work with the very pre-service first steps into the language classroom through to people with many years experience who, as Mark was saying, want to take their qualifications to that diploma and master's level. So we bring in all this quality that runs through the experience we have of working internationally, and particularly working in Latin America for all of our 25 years as an organization. As what Mark was mentioning, a crucial aspect of our quality offer is the accreditation that we have. Just for us at NILE, we have accreditation from these organizations on the screen, and that means rigorous inspections, rigorous quality assurance frameworks, real adherence to quality in everything we do. And that's, I think, possibly within the UK, it's the highest expectations and demands of the accreditation frameworks that really do involve every aspect of the work you do, from the classroom delivery through to the onboarding of students, through to all of the resources, through to the other stakeholders, the accommodation providers, and the platforms that we use. Everything's assessed and accredited at that minute level. So we bring that experience and exposure to quality that's crucial to give us credibility in that international space. Another thing that we bring in terms of quality is the track record of working around the world. Now, you may think this is a representation of places NILE has worked, but actually this is just a representation of participants from individual countries on our latest January online teacher education courses. So you can see that just in a normal working day, working week, we're working with teachers, trainers, other educational professionals from a huge range of contexts around the world. And that gives us access to insight, it gives us access to experience, it gives us access to local understanding. So we can really bring in that sense of global quality on a local level. A couple of examples of that. One example on a very bespoke scale, working for the Chilean Ministry of Education, working with teacher trainers on a bespoke program, giving them online orientation and inviting them to Norwich in the UK for 4 weeks of intensive training, and also the social and cultural immersion that comes with that. But then that continues as they return to their classrooms and their training rooms back in Chile with online follow-up and implementation, checking that learning in a bubble of wonderful activities and experience over 4 weeks in the UK is followed up, seeing that's implemented and actioned and filters through into their practices when they're back in their own context. On another scale, a project we're involved with at the moment for the Tunisian Ministry of Education in collaboration with British Council, working with thousands of teachers, weekly courses where we're working with teachers online in their own context, working from home, trainers from around the world, local mentors and teacher advisors supporting at every level, and all of the coursework and the activities contextualized for the location in which the teachers are working and the learners they're working with. So those two examples really highlight the level of bespoke development and design that we bring to our quality approach, and really taking the time and the consideration to take the stakeholders' needs into consideration when working with particular projects, rather than saying we have an off-the-shelf product, like it or leave it. So we've got that the quality in our experience, in the accreditation that we adhere to, in the track record of working in a huge number of contexts around the world. And then there's also the quality in terms of the way we design programs. A huge amount of experience and quality running through the open enrollment programs we have for individual teachers, and the hundreds of bespoke programs we've designed over the years. And that's not just putting in teacher training content or learning content, it's also thinking about what happens after the course, how that's implemented, what tools and systems teachers need to go away with to make sure that there's learning that flows through into their own practice, so it affects beliefs and practices rather than just knowledge and skills. And that needs to be cyclical, monitoring what you're doing, changing your programs, evaluating the success. All of this is part of a quality culture within an institution, and that's backed up with international research, as Mark was talking about, presentations in conferences and events around the world that really keep us there on our toes in terms of keeping up with the changes and the adaptations necessary for the local and national and international world as it changes around us. Some we like and welcome, some that we have to adapt to because they're forced upon us, as we've all experienced in the last 12 months. The last area of quality I really want to underline is the quality in partnerships, and it's very much a part of a NIAL ethos that quality comes from working together, from collaborative projects, from co-constructed learning between UK institutions and institutions in host countries. We work with lots of host partners, providing venues, providing trainers across Latin America, and also strategic partnerships, so we can take our NIAL quality courses to deliver in Ireland, deliver in Malta, in our global partnerships with education publishers. Macmillan is our global partner, having this peer-to-peer support in institutions that are doing similar things and working with teachers on a peer-to-peer level across the world. Aqueduto, we were part of the founding of this new association, which really focuses on quality in online teacher education. And then the wonderful partnerships that we can draw on from being part of the UK English language teaching sector, and from the Department for International Trade, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the British Council and English UK, really gives us this education is great quality to support all of the projects we do. So that's a kind of case study of the way that NIAL works in language education globally, and I hope some of that is replicated and reflected in the work you do, and I'd be delighted to hear from any of you privately, individually, or through the discussions we'll have as part of today's session. Thank you very much, and I'll hand back to you, Barbara.
Thank you very much, Tan. Really inspiring to see how NIAL works worldwide and the different bits that you bring together to make sure you develop this quality culture. And I will have a follow-up question on that in a couple of seconds. But before, let's hear from Frank Piner. He's the head of operations at Bell English, and he's responsible for the delivery of quality English language programs in Bell's Adult and Young Learners Centre in the UK, as well as its teacher training and development courses, including CELTA, Delta, and a wide range of summer programs run at Bell Teacher Academy. Frank also oversees the projects Bell delivers overseas, which include English language teaching partnership with schools and universities, and teacher training delivered in-country. Frank began his career in the classroom before moving into management, and is driven by seeing the magic of learning unfold. Hi, Frank. Really good to have you today.
Thank you very much, Barbara. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Over to you now.
Thank you. Can you see my presentation? Yes, I think that's come up on the screen. Good. Okay, so well, both Mark and Tom have mentioned the quality assurance that schools in the UK go through, and Bell is no different. We're inspected by bodies like the British Council and the Independent Schools Inspectorate. But we also offer a quality assurance and development audit of our own, where we will go out to share our expertise with other schools, and that's something that I wanted to share with you this evening. So what is a quality assurance and development audit? Well, it's a visit to a school or a group of schools to identify the strengths in the school and areas for improvement, and to help the school improve the overall quality of its teaching and learning. So it's typically carried out in country, in your country, wherever you are. And it can also be done online if the teaching's happening online, or if there are ways of recording face-to-face lessons. So I hope this is going to be of interest for two reasons. One, well, some of you might be interested in our quality assurance and development audits. And secondly, well, really the standards that we help clients to achieve are the ones that we strive to deliver ourselves. So I hope it will give you an idea of how we achieve quality at Bell. First of all, you might be interested to know some of our recent clients that we've had for the Quad service, and we've worked with Laureate International Universities from 2011 to 2018, with schools, their campuses in Brazil, Chile, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Honduras, Mexico and Peru. Also Assumption colleges in Thailand, and the Macau Polytechnic Institute in Macau in China. Obviously, each quad is different, and it takes into account the local context, and we design each quad with local challenges and sensitivities in mind. So what are the areas then that we review when we come to your school to do a quad visit? Well, we look at 10 different areas that we think are important in delivering quality education. There are multiple criteria in each section, and I won't have time to talk about them all, but I'll explain a little bit about each one. So we look at the teachers, obviously, and what are the criteria for selecting those teachers? Do they have relevant qualifications and experience? We're looking at how the academic management structure works. Do teachers have the relevant support from their academic manager? Are there effective lines of communication? Is there a formal effective induction procedure for teachers, for example? Obviously, this is a very important one. How is teaching and learning monitored? What are the frequency and type of teacher observations that are carried out? Are there regular observations like buzz observations, developmental observations, opportunities for peer observation? When teachers are assessed, are they given clear criteria for what they're supposed to achieve in the lesson? And really importantly, are they given an unambiguous written statement as to whether the lesson met the quality standard or not? And often we find that is actually missing when we go and look at schools. Is there evidence of learner progress over a period of time as well? We need to see. Obviously, another really important one, many people would argue that the most important one is CPD in achieving quality in schools. So what CPD activity is offered in the school? Does it meet the needs of the teachers and the aims of the school in its development? And are teachers informed about all the local, national, international, online CPD opportunities, for example? Obviously, the big one, quality of teaching and learning. We're looking at things like if learning goals are appropriate for the learners, for their levels, for their backgrounds, for their needs and interests. Are the topics age appropriate and relevant and interesting? Do the teachers' working methods and procedures result in a high level of engagement and interaction and participation from the learners? Then we also look at educational resources for both teachers and students and how well they support the curriculum. We would carry out a review of the curriculum and the course design. We would look at how effectively students are placed into classes according to their level. Not always possible in all contexts, of course. That would be how we would develop the quad depending on the locality. We will assess whether extracurricular activities give the learners the opportunities they need to participate and practice their language. And we would spend time talking to staff and students to get their input into what the school does well and how it can improve. And then out of all this activity comes an extensive report, usually about 30 pages, with plenty of kind of concrete recommendations for what the school can do to improve. Then at this point, of course, we don't want to just say, well, here's your report, please implement the changes suggested. See you. No, that doesn't give the maximum impact that we want. So we always try to agree follow-up activity with the school or schools, and that can include training to address the areas for improvement. We can deliver that in country or online. We would look to have ongoing engagement over a long period of time with management and teaching staff to see how well the recommendations are working. We would set up platforms for teachers to share and comment on their learning. And we would hopefully do a further quad visit a little bit later on, a year later or so, to see and really assess fully how well things have worked. And with the organizations that I mentioned at the beginning, we've worked with them over a number of years with an annual visit, and each time building on the improvements that we've seen. So let me just tell you a little bit about some of the services that we offer, because as I said, the approach that we take to the quads is very similar to the approach that we take with all our own services, and we have high expectations of ourselves, as we need to have to be competitive, as Mark mentioned, in the environment here in Britain. And we also have a set of educational principles called the Bell Way that underpin everything that we do, and indeed the quad framework. You can read about these on our website, the link there. So just to take you through very quickly a few of the services that we do offer. We offer young learner programs for students aged 7 to 17, and we work with schools in Argentina, Chile, Peru, and Uruguay. There's a list there on the screen for you of some of those organizations. We have English language teaching centers for adults in Cambridge and London. We run teacher training and development programs in the UK and online, and we've worked in the region with Cultura Inglesa from Brazil, and also with the Chilean Ministry of Education, where we partnered with NILE to deliver the Train the Trainer course, develop teacher trainer course, and language improvement course for teachers. We also have our Summer Bell Teacher Academy, which Barbara mentioned in the introduction, that runs both face-to-face online and our overseas training services. So that's a little bit about what we do. And of course, all of the things that I mentioned in the quality assurance and development audit, we look to apply to everything we do. So thank you very much for listening. I look forward to some questions going forwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Frank, Mark, and Tom. I think we had such great presentations and overview of what UK is able to offer and bring into discussion when it comes to English language. There are a couple of questions in the chat, but I wanted to start with one, sort of bringing pieces of your different presentations. So we heard about developing a quality culture, using reports to assess schools and make recommendations on how they can improve research and all of that. So I was wondering what would be the key tips or the key steps you would recommend different institutions need to take to incorporate this quality culture, and how would you suggest for them to do that? And that also relates with a comment in the chat from Stephanie saying that there is not an assurance body in Brazil, and she thinks that it would be interesting to have one just to make sure. Yeah, there you go. That's the comment that she put in the chat. So that's not my first question to you.
Okay, I'm happy to start and then hand over to Frank and Tom if that's all right. If you're looking at the ensuring of quality within any institution, it can be quite localized, and it can start with very simple things. So what you essentially need to do is have some process in place where you are getting feedback from the students, when you're monitoring results, and where you are observing and supporting teachers. So if you're able to develop those systems whereby teachers can be observing each other, doesn't necessarily have to be the scary fact of your manager coming into your classroom and you get all nervous. It could be, your friends, your colleagues that are coming in and observing you and giving you a bit of feedback. You could have a community of teachers within your school, within your institution, and you're sharing great ideas and great resources with each other. That's a way of helping the quality. And you're getting feedback from your students as well, in terms of, the crucial feedback of results, of course, but also the feedback of what they're enjoying, what sort of activities they like to do, what sort of activities they found quite challenging, where their strengths and their weaknesses are, and these sorts of things. And this then is just step by step helping you improve the quality in the institution. You don't necessarily need to start with the big external quality assurance scheme. You can do it at a very local level. So that would be my advice for
it. Allow me to follow on from that, Mark. I completely agree with what Mark's saying, and quality comes from within before it comes from without. I think one of the things you need to do is define what quality means for you and the areas it covers. And Frank has obviously given a very comprehensive definition of what the Bell Quad model looks at. And all of those things are complementary within quality in an institution. It may be at the classroom level, it may be at the institutional management level, but defining what that quality means, whether that's with your own set of criteria or categories, or whether that's borrowing from one of the UK or international accreditation bodies. Certainly organizations like Equals have a global remit rather than just a country-specific remit, and the Aqueducto Quality Assurance, the self-assessment framework and the quality framework are all available for free online. The other thing I'd add is that I think that all quality assurance programs that I've ever been involved with have a fundamental aspect of self-assessment, of going through that process of looking internally at what you can do, what you can do better, what you do very well and you want to capitalize on, but having that self-assessment and the buy-in from the people who are involved in it, rather than it being a top-down thing from management, but teachers contributing to that self-assessment, students contributing to that self-assessment, and at all levels that self-assessment running through. I think those are key aspects of quality in the institutions I've worked with and the providers I've worked with of quality assurance.
Yes, I'd agree with what you said there, Tom. All of it really. Yeah, the other thing I would say is to as Tom said, decide what quality means for you, but I think it should always come down to a focus on the learners and to how well they're progressing. So I would say keep the focus on the learners, and I think the single thing that you can do with your teachers to improve the quality in your schools is have a good and regular and engaging continuous professional development program.
Thank you. I think those are all great points, and I would say that defining quality might be one of the biggest challenges for many institutions. Picking up on what Frank just mentioned on CPD, the past year has been quite challenging to teachers throughout the world, and I was wondering what would be the sort of training needed currently to English teachers. I know that many of them had to adapt to hybrid or online learning. So how training and capacity building could be made available considering the current pandemics? How do you think that could work in your personal experiences as well? I know that both Niall and Belle adapt to the online world. So what's your views on that?
Well, I think, you know, as Tom's explained, both Niall and Belle do offer you know, opportunities for teachers to do a lot of development online, and although teachers may be you know, quite tired of online learning, you know, being in front of a screen all the time, because that's the way they have to teach right now. There isn't really much other alternative right now to learning. They can't travel to the UK easily to come and do a course. So I think having online courses that teachers can work on at their own pace, in their own time. You know, teachers are very busy people. They all have different schedules, and having kind of nice, small, bite-sized online teacher development courses, I think, really helps. We've got one at Belle or a whole series of them at Belle, that's just 5 hours over, that can be done over a month. So, you know, it's very, very kind of small, digestible chunks of professional development. And I know that Tom at Niall, you've got a whole range of online courses that are designed for teachers to be able to do in their own time as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. I totally agree. And that access to professional development is one thing that the pandemic has really opened up for us. It's forced us to open our eyes to where we can access professional development resources rather than them being brought to us within our institutions. I think the other thing that the pandemic has forced on us is for us to kind of redefine what we mean by teacher training and teacher development, because it's no longer just about being in the classroom and the resources you bring and the quality that you deliver to your learners. Teacher training now needs to encompass digital literacies and being able to move between modalities of teaching, whether that's fully online or whether that's hybrid or whether that's the return to face-to-face and integration of technology. But it also involves things like being aware of the learners' learning environments, because you're no longer in control of their learning environment. And it becomes about training yourself to be responsible for your own well-being as a teacher, and taking steps to kind of manage yourself and manage your engagement with the overwhelming kind of 24/7 nature of online I guess interaction with the outside world. That, you know, where do you draw the lines of what you're expected to do as a teacher when you're working online? Where are the parameters of the classroom and the external responsibilities for a teacher? So it's forced us to think about teacher training in a much broader way. And I think that those are some of the aspects that we try to address in our courses, as Belle do, looking at different aspects of what it means to be a teacher in this third decade, particularly in the light of the pandemic, but also making teachers aware that the plethora of resources for individually driven professional development are also multiple, and there is some real quality there if you look carefully.
Mark, do you want to?
I don't really have anything to add other than what these two gentlemen have said. I mean, their institutions are expert at the training side of things, and how they've been, as Tom said, how they've been adapted their programs and have been forced to do so. But as such, you know, they've now got stronger products in terms of products that are more accessible, that students can be flexible about. So it's kind of pushed innovation really in terms of the accessibility and the interactivity of teacher training courses that people have needed to adapt to these challenges that we have. So
Yeah, definitely. And picking up on innovation, and thank you, Tom, for also mentioning the other skills that teachers need to show currently as digital literacy. We have one question in the chat from Marisa. She says that, in my point of view, hybrid learning is a big challenge to teachers. Like, how to plan for hybrid learning in the public sector?
Yeah, maybe I could start here, because this is something that we've taken a huge amount of interest in at NIAL, to the extent of we organized a survey which covered over 150 teaching institutions in 30 different countries, and their experiences and the impact of moving to hybrid learning for teachers and learners and management within their institutions. And that's a publicly available survey now. It's on the NIAL website, which I shared earlier. It's also available through English UK, but it really shows the challenge, and the key thing that's come out of this is the amount of challenge for teachers within this, the responsibilities of working in dual modality, of being in two places at once. I think it remains to be seen whether this is going to be something that is desirable after a return to face-to-face teaching is possible. And I think there are very strong opinions on both sides of that spectrum. I think for private institutions, it will probably be seen as an addition to business, allowing people to increase their range and the reach of who they can approach in geographical terms. But also, I think it might be very tempting in state sector to maximize physical space and to think about split shifts. And there are all sorts of different models within that. I do think that the model of students in a live teaching event with half of them in the classroom and half of them at the same time simultaneously in online settings is a massive challenge for teacher training and teacher development, and we're not there yet. Best practice is yet to emerge, and the teacher training to support that needs to be developed rapidly, because I fear for teachers having to do that without the support around them.
I agree with you, Tom, completely. It's a massive challenge, and it's one that we tried to avoid for quite some time, because it was so difficult to try to do. So we tried to separate and have our online classes as purely online, and face-to-face classes operating purely face-to-face. But we are now starting to experiment with hybridity. But there's very little research been done. There's not very much to draw on, and you're kind of learning as you go, really. I think it's very difficult, and I do feel for teachers who have just been kind of thrust into that setting, and it's being expected of them that they teach in a hybrid way. I think it's until we have more concrete research and training, it's going to be a difficult challenge.
I agree with that. It feels to me, from a teaching background myself, it feels like we've kind of been taken back to the early days of when we first started teaching, and we spent sort of 2 to 3 hours planning a 30-minute class. And gradually, as we got more and more experienced in our language teaching and our classroom management and our time management, we've gradually got that down to being able to plan your class on the way to the classroom, and you've got all your resources there. Now we're back at that stage again when we're talking about online teaching and hybrid teaching and learning. We haven't found our stride yet. Teachers themselves have got great range of different resources that are there for free, and applications and platforms that they're using, and we're gradually trying to find our stride, and what works and what doesn't, and what's reliable and what isn't, and how to save ourselves a bit of time with planning. But it's an enormous challenge. But you'll get there. You overcome it when you first stepped into a classroom. You'll find your way as well with the hybrid, with the online resources. But just look for what's out there. Look what these guys have got on their websites as well. what other organizations in the UK have got, and just pick things that are going to help you, save you time, and just give you the support and the interactivity that you need to keep your classes engaged.
Yeah, thank you all. I think this is a new word to all of us, so we are kind of learning according day by day in some points. But I think this is very insightful for listeners and people who is watching us live or that will watch us later to think more in a more strategic way and in the long term on teacher training and how the UK can be a partner in that. I think we have time for two more questions. We'll pick up one from Victoria in the chat. So she mentions that providing students with competence they would need to face the world is one of the main challenges concerning English language training. So how do you think that other competences could be embedded in English language training, and what's the role that schools and institutions play on that?
I'm happy to go take a stab at this one. Yeah, I mean, I think what we've seen in the last 12 months is the pandemic has accelerated certain things. It's one of the things that's accelerated is the acceptance of the work from home culture. And the implication of that for students and professionals globally is that truly accelerating that idea of a global marketplace. So the opportunity for people in any country to work for multinationals or to work for companies based in another country is much more acceptable and much more part of the future, I feel. And that's going to be a real opportunity for people to use these professional skills. And I think that's going to be driven a lot by professional language skills as well, being able to work with English as a lingua franca alongside your other languages in a plurilingual repertoire is going to be really important. I think it's also accelerated the exposure and the experience of, and hopefully the confidence in what quality online learning can do. And so that's going to be a feature of education, I think, and the competence to be an independent, self-motivated learner who's digitally literate and can bring in the resources from online. That's going to be a competence. And then there's all of those kind of life skills that we often see when we talk about 21st century skills, these things about teamwork and collaboration and communication and creativity, all of these things that feature at the top of the lists of core 21st century skills. And these are going to need to be part of broader educational programs integrated within curricula, I think cross-curricular approaches to these, but they've also got a huge thread running through them of language competence. And so I think language competency underpins and supports almost all of those 21st century competencies. And so I think language educators have a real important role to play. And one of the things that the pandemic has also shown us is that teachers are the ones who are adapting to this most rapidly and most effectively. Teachers are very much at the heart of education, and we haven't seen a move of learning into artificial intelligence or self-access programs. Teachers will continue, in my opinion, to have a key role in supporting this learning. Fundamentally, we're social humans who like to learn from each other's in social spaces, and whether those social spaces are increasingly online or increasingly face-to-face, those competencies are going to need to adapt to support that new way of working and new way of living.
I think just to add to that, as Tom mentioned about these 21st century skills as they're known, and these competencies, a lot of them are things that you are already embedding into your teaching and already embedding into your lessons. Whenever you're getting students to work together, they're developing collaboration skills. If you've got a group and one of them's leading it, that's leadership skills. They're obviously all of us are developing our digital literacy skills, for example. So a lot of this is already happening. It's really about drawing these things out and identifying them. Problem solving, creative thinking, communication, obviously very much embedded within any kind of language classes. So it's all there. It's identifying it. It's pulling these things out, making the most of them, and identifying them to students so that they know what the skills are that they're also practicing at the same time as learning the language as well.
I've nothing to add really. So I think Tom and Mark have covered that one really well.
Yeah, thank you, Tom and Mark. I think we are short on time. We are almost in the end of our webinar, but I wanted to ask one final question, and I think we can relate this final question with perhaps your closing remarks. And my question is, how do you guys think the UK could partner with institutions across Latin America and the Caribbean to increase their English language programs? What are your views and the options available? I think perhaps we could start with you, Mark, this time.
Okay, and I'll hand it over quite quickly because these are the guys that are doing the partnerships around the world. But certainly any UK institution would be open to partnerships, collaborations around the world in country of all different shapes and sizes. So whether that be focusing on teacher training, whether that focusing on course development, resource development, whatever it might be. As I hopefully showcased in my initial presentation, we've got the experience there. It's experience that has been built up over a large number of years for a number of different reasons as well. So reach out to myself, reach out to Barbara. If you're looking for a partner in the UK, we'll help you find the right sort of partner for what you're looking for.
Thank you very much, Mark.
So, yes, yeah, we've obviously done a lot of work with partnering different organisations in the region already. We'd love to do some more. I think really what we want to do is to hear what your needs are, and then to take it from there and to build whatever help we can in direct response to your needs. And kind of like Tom mentioned earlier, it's not about off-the-shelf products. It's about designing, solutions that really work for you in your context, and looking at the local context and understanding how things work. What are the challenges that teachers face in your particular region and your setting? Is it extremely large classrooms with not a great deal in terms of facilities, or what exactly are the challenges? So I think we need to look at the context very carefully and design any partnerships and solutions on a case-by-case basis, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, speaking on behalf of NIAL, I think strategic partnerships are the future of education. I think that one thing that's going to be really impacted as we emerge from the pandemic and we face the environmental crisis that the world's under, that the flying faculty model of sending trainers out to work in local contexts is going to be very much under threat. And I think that partnerships between associations, organizations, institutions covering global borders is going to be a real solution to that, with collaborative projects, co-delivery of programs, supporting online, with face-to-face delivery delivered by local partners, and online support from UK partners. I think there's a huge opportunity there for these kind of global partnerships that Mark has been talking about, Frank is very open to, and we at NIAL are equally open to hearing from you. I hope that partnership between countries in Latin America and the UK is a feature of the educational landscape to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Mark, Tom, and Frank. And I second everything you said. The UK is open to discuss with you partnerships and strategic partnerships moving forward. Please do get in touch with us if you wanted to discuss further any of the points of this webinar or any other needs. You have our email address available there, so feel free to reach out to us at any time. Thank you for being with us, for engaging this amazing conversation. It felt that 1 hour flight, to me at least. It was very good. Thank you so much to the three of you. I'm always pleased to hear you speaking. Not different this time. And for you guys in the audience, stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll have our last Education Week webinar to discuss a little bit more about education and technology. So I hope to see you tomorrow. And thank you very much for joining. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.